Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Abhineet Shukla and with me is Reshma Tiwari bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate World Dairy Summit at Greater Noida in Uttar Pradesh on Monday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on two-day visit to Uzbekistan on 15th of September for SCO Summit. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, while addressing diplomats at the Prince Saud Al Faisal Institute of Diplomatic Studies in Riyadh, underlined the importance of the India-Saudi strategic relationship. Britain's Queen Elizabeth II embarks on her final journey as Queen's coffin has arrived in Edinburgh after a journey from Balmoral. Dozens of girls have protested in Afghanistan's Paktia province after Taliban authorities shut their schools just days after classes resumed. France, Britain and Germany have said that they seriously doubt about Iran's intentions to revive a nuclear deal. Albania severs diplomatic ties with Iran and orders Iranian embassy staff to leave, accusing it of orchestrating a major cyber attack. Ukraine claims its forces have retaken over 3,000 square kilometers during a rapid counter-offensive in eastern parts. The leaders of 24 African countries urged wealthier nations to uphold their aid pledges so the continent can tackle climate change effects for which it shares little blame. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate International Dairy Federation World Dairy Summit 2022 being organized at Indian Expo Center and Mart, Greater Noida tomorrow at around 10:30 a.m. The 4-day-long World Dairy Summit 2022 being held from 12th to 15th of September is a congregation of global and Indian dairy stakeholders, including industry leaders, experts, farmers and policy planners, centering around the theme of dairy for nutrition and livelihood. Around 1,500 participants from 50 countries are expected to participate in IDF WDS 2022. The last such summit was held in India about half a century ago in 1974. The Indian dairy industry is unique in the sense that it is based on a cooperative model that empowers small and marginal dairy farmers, especially women. Driven by the vision of the Prime Minister, the government has taken multiple steps for the betterment of the dairy sector, resulting in an increase of milk production by more than 44% in the last 8 years. The success story of the Indian dairy industry, accounting for about 23% of global milk, producing around 210 million tons annually and empowering more than 8 crore dairy farmers, will be showcased at the IDF WDS 2022. The summit will also help Indian dairy farmers to gain exposure about the global best practices. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be on a two-day visit to Samarkand of Uzbekistan from the 15th of September to attend the 22nd meeting of the Council of Heads of State of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO. Mr. Modi is visiting the country at the invitation of the President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. The External Affairs Ministry in a statement said, the SCO summit will be attended by leaders of SCO member states, Observer States, Secretary General of the SCO, Executive Director of the SCO Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure, President of Turkmenistan and other invited guests. During the summit, the leaders are expected to review the organization's activities over the past 2 decades and discuss the state and prospects of multilateral cooperation in the future. Topical issues of regional and global importance are also expected to be discussed at the meeting. Prime Minister Modi is also likely to hold a few bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit.
Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has said that India is on the path to become a powerhouse driving global growth by 2047. He said this while interacting with the business community of Southern California. The minister added that the transformational work happening in India has taken the country to the 5th spot among world economies. He mentioned that CII estimates India in 2047 to be a $35 to $45 trillion economy, taking India into the League of Developed Nations. Mr. Goyal said, conclusion of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework is an important milestone for free and fair trade with like-minded countries who share a common objective to have rule-based international order and a transparent economic system. He also said that politically stable and open economies in the Indo-Pacific are coming together to expand economic activities among each other. Mr. Goyal emphasized that India today is a land of opportunities and a potential market for the business community in the US. He noted that the country has the advantage of demographic dividend and its aspirational young population provides a huge opportunity for growth. He mentioned that India is also rapidly transitioning to clean energy, adding that country aspires to achieve 500 gigawatt of green energy capacity by 2030. The minister said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has brought political stability to the country, and under his leadership, the country has a government that is decisive, willing to take strong decisions, balances public good and social welfare, and at the same time also empowering 1.3 billion citizens become better citizens and contribute to economic growth and development of the country. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today addressed diplomats at the Prince Saud Al Faisal Institute of Diplomatic Studies in Riyadh. The minister underlined the importance of the India-Saudi strategic relationship at a time when the world is at crossroads. He said India-Saudi Arabia collaborations hold the promise of shared growth, prosperity, stability, security and development. The External Affairs Minister reached Riyadh yesterday on a two-day visit to Saudi Arabia. This is his first trip to the kingdom as India's External Affairs Minister.
The Queen Elizabeth II will lie in state for 4 days before her funeral at Westminster Abbey on Monday, 19th of September. The public will be allowed to view the coffin during that time. Her family, politicians and world leaders will attend her state funeral. It will be a bank holiday. The Queen's final journey began on Sunday with her coffin being carried by her Balmoral gamekeepers, her own staff bringing her to a hearse that took her to Edinburgh. Queen's coffin has arrived in Edinburgh after journey from Balmoral. On Monday afternoon, it will process to St. Giles Cathedral with members of the royal family. There will be a service and the coffin will rest here for 24 hours for people to pay their respects. The following day, Princess Anne will accompany her mother's body as it is flown back to London. The Queen's coffin will be taken from Edinburgh Airport to Buckingham Palace via RAF Northolt. On Wednesday afternoon, the coffin will be taken to Westminster Hall, arriving. 4 clear days of lying in state will happen from Thursday before the funeral. Monday 19th, state funeral will be followed by a procession from London to Windsor Castle. The Queen will be laid to rest at King George VI Memorial Chapel at Windsor. Ahead of the funeral, the new King Charles III will visit Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. Prime Minister Liz Truss will accompany him. King Charles will visit Edinburgh tomorrow. In today's Hotspot section, we have a discussion on India-UK ties for Roadmap 2030. In conversation are Bhaswati Mukherjee, former ambassador, and Nilova Roy Chaudhary, a journalist.
As you know, Britain, which is a constitutional monarchy, is in the midst of a very unique situation with both a new king and a new prime minister. In the throes of this change, their newly appointed Prime Minister Liz Truss spoke with our Prime Minister last night. Why was this call important and necessary?
Well, this call was important and necessary because India and UK, as you've just mentioned, have a very strong bilateral partnership, which became a comprehensive strategic partnership some years ago. The two prime ministers meet annually. Last year, because of COVID, they met virtually. And this practice was actually started from the time of Tony Blair. UK was one of the first P5 countries to accord us full support for our candidature for permanent membership to the Security Council. And there is also a vigorous economic relationship. India has very large FDI flows into UK. We have overcome the United Kingdom economy. We are negotiating an FTA which could come by Diwali. And in addition, unlike many other post-colonial relationships, the relationship between India and UK is marked by maturity on both sides and an understanding that we need to turn a page and move onward, which is why there was talk perhaps of our Prime Minister inviting the new British Prime Minister to be our guest on 26th January. We're not yet sure about that. But if that happens again, that would be a very good gesture and quite normal considering that we've had, for instance, the Queen here on historic visits. We've had the new king here when he was Prince of Wales. We've had members of the British family coming and going. And of course, we have these annual summits. So it would not surprise me, Niluba, if we do hear at some point in a couple of weeks' time that Prime Minister Liz Truss has been invited to be our chief guest on Republic Day. It is also in the rightness of things that we observe one day's mourning with flags at half-mast because she was Britain's longest serving monarch. She's overtaken Queen Victoria. She's head of the Commonwealth. Though we don't recognize her as our head of state, we have a very important role to play in the Commonwealth. We made clear from the time we became independent. And in fact, Niluba, we are one of the largest donor countries to the Commonwealth. So we do observe a day of mourning to show our solidarity with the United Kingdom on this sad occasion.
In this 75th year of India's independence from British colonial rule, you know, the roadmap that was chalked out for 2030 becomes sort of even more important as both countries are emerging from the devastating shadow of the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I mean, defense and security, I know, form key elements of the partnership. But the fact that there are a variety of new areas that India and Britain are looking at, particularly related to climate change, healthcare collaboration, you know, the most recent of which was, of course, the AstraZeneca-Oxford vaccine. You also mentioned that the FTA is likely to fructify by maybe Diwali this year, that soon. What are the areas that we can look at for the relationship to go forward in?
It was actually the Commerce Secretary of India who had mentioned about a week ago that the FTA is making great progress and perhaps could be finalized by Diwali. The United Kingdom also has a very understanding perception of the kind of difficulties that India is facing vis-a-vis China. The formation of AUKUS for India was a way to contain the rise of China in the Indo-Pacific, and United Kingdom also appreciates our role in Quad. As far as the Ukraine-Russia crisis is concerned, the United Kingdom has a much better understanding now after several rounds of discussions between our External Affairs Minister and Prime Minister Liz Truss when she was Foreign Secretary about the position that we have on this issue. So it is not an obstacle or a hindrance. We have gone ahead on the basis of mutual understanding of each other's position. And certainly the UK today, as I said, understands the importance of a rule-based order in the Indo-Pacific, the role of Quad, and the whole point of the formation of AUKUS was to bring in two important NATO countries, United States and the United Kingdom, to give strength to Australia, an important Quad member, and like India facing China in this strategic area. So all in all, the defense partnership too has great potential. We have been doing joint exercises and we are looking at positively at whether we should get some hardware from UK based on transfer of technology. So all these things are marching ahead as we speak.
India, for example, is the second largest foreign investor in the United Kingdom. The UK ranks about 18th as a trading partner of India and third after Mauritius and Singapore as an investor in this country. So what are the potential areas that both countries are looking at?
Well, actually, the huge Indian FDI flows, which have been continuing now for almost 2 decades, completely transformed the India-UK business partnership from what it was as in a post-colonial context to India becoming not just one of the largest investors in the UK, but also the owner of very large properties in the city of London, for example, where we overtook the Russians some time back. We have also bought over some important companies, and post-Brexit, while there was talk that maybe some Indian companies will leave the city of London and move maybe to Amsterdam or to some other part of the continent or to Ireland, that hasn't happened. In fact, post-Brexit, Indian corporates based in United Kingdom have been a source of great support to the UK economy as it comes out of the pandemic. You know, the UK economy was badly hit by the pandemic and it had not recovered from the adverse impact of Brexit. It was cut off from partnership where it had the protection of the EU tariffs, regulations, etc., which is why United Kingdom desperately needs this FTA with India. And is quite accommodating on some of our concerns, which is why we've been able to move ahead. So many common areas of investment which we can look at, and they include agricultural products, they include healthcare, work with pharmaceuticals. We've used the AstraZeneca very effectively, and now, of course, our own indigenous vaccines. So all in all, there are many, many areas where we can look at for further collaboration, including, as you rightly point out, in defense, which is a whole new area which we can look at, because earlier we were focused on first former USSR, then Russian Federation, then United States is gradually becoming, a large contributor of our weapon systems, and so is France. So UK has some catching up to do, but it's an area that we can look at very positively because they have a lot that could be of great interest to us for our armed force.
No, the other very interesting thing is that the two countries decided to go ahead on collaborating in research, not just for healthcare, but in a variety of other areas. And this is something that we've not been doing very much about. Research in terms of the development of clean energy and transport and new technologies, protecting nature and biodiversity, and helping developing countries adapt to the impact of climate change. So this is another crucial area in which India are now looking to collaborate. It's one of the sort of future areas, other than, of course, the blue economy of the seas. These are areas that you think will go a long way, right?
Indeed. In fact, climate change is something which is of great interest to the new British monarch, King Charles III. He has spent a lot of his time as Prince of Wales working on climate change issues. He also strongly supported right from the beginning our solar energy project, the fact that we have the Solar Alliance, so many countries have joined, supports India's efforts to move to renewable energy. And certainly there is much that we can learn from the UK on climate change issues and on the blue economy. And also the United Kingdom has an excellent record of encouraging research and development, R&D in key industries. This is something, again, that we can collaborate together, because there is no doubt that they, like many European countries, have a very rigorous approach to R&D, which we also are now embracing. And this is, again, an area that we can look at as we move ahead.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much, Ambassador Mukherjee.
Thank you.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Dozens of girls have protested in Afghanistan's Paktia province after Taliban authorities shut their schools just days after classes resumed. The agencies and local media reported an estimated 3 million secondary school girls are shut out of school for more than a year now. Images on social and local media, including Tolo News, show the girls dressed in their school uniforms, some in head-to-toe burqas, others in school uniforms and white veils, marching through the center of Gardes to protest the closure. Earlier this month, 4 girls' schools above 6th grade in Gardes, the provincial capital, and one in the Samkani district began operating after a recommendation by tribal elders and school principals, but without formal permission from the Taliban's Ministry of Education. When students in Gardes went for classes on Saturday, they were told to return home, a women's rights activist and residents told AFP. In the morning, when they did not allow the girls to enter schools, they held a protest. Activist Yasmin and an organizer of the rally told the news agency over the phone. The Taliban has gone back on its promise to allow women's education and job opportunities and has since imposed curbs on women's rights. The action has brought back memories of its first stint in power between 1996 to 2001, during which women's education was banned and women were banished from public life. Late last month, a senior Taliban leader told a channel that the group is working to create a so-called safe environment for girls and women in secondary schools and the workplace, adding that Islam grants women the right to education, work and entrepreneurship. France, Britain and Germany have said that they had serious doubts about Iran's intentions to revive a nuclear deal. The diplomats of 3 countries said on Saturday that Iran's response to the EU coordinator was a step backward. However, these comments were rejected by Tehran. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Nasser Kanani said the statement was unconstructive. He further said that 3 European countries are advised to play a more active role in providing solutions to end the few disagreements that remain. On the other hand, the International Atomic Energy Agency IAEA's Board of Governors is to meet on Monday, 3 months after adopting a resolution urging Iran to give credible answers to the watchdog on the issue.
Albania has severed diplomatic ties with Iran and ordered Iranian embassy staff to leave, accusing it of orchestrating a major cyber attack. Prime Minister Edi Rama said a probe had found evidences that Iran hired 4 groups to mount the attack on Albania on 15th of July. The hackers tried to paralyze public services, delete and steal government data and incite chaos, he added. In response, Iran rejected Mr. Rama's claims as baseless. Its foreign ministry condemned the decision to expel its diplomats as anti-Iranian and suggested in a statement that third parties may have been involved in coming up with the accusations, Iran's state news agency reported. Ukraine's military has claimed its forces have retaken over 3,000 square kilometers during a rapid counter-offensive in eastern Ukraine. The remarkable advance, if confirmed, means Kyiv's forces have tripled their stated gains in little over 48 hours. On Thursday evening, President Zelensky put the figure at 1,000 square kilometers and then 2,000 square kilometers on Saturday evening. On Saturday, the eastern counterattack saw Ukrainian troops enter the vital Russian-held supply towns of Izium and Kupiansk. Russia's defense ministry confirmed its forces' retreat from Izium itself and Kupiansk, which it said would allow its forces to regroup in territory held by Moscow-backed separatists. The Russian ministry also confirmed the withdrawal of troops from a third key town, Balaklia, in order to bolster efforts on the Donetsk front. Ukrainian forces entered the town on Friday.
A 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck Papua New Guinea on Sunday morning. The U.S. Geological Survey in a statement said that the quake, with a depth of 90 kilometers, struck near the town of Kainantu. Local media said that power outages and damage to buildings were reported in parts of Papua New Guinea. According to media reports, the town has a population of roughly 8,500 people. The U.S. National Tsunami Warning Center had initially said hazardous tsunami waves were possible within 1,000 kilometers along the coast of Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, but later said there was no longer a threat. In 2018, at least 125 people were killed when a magnitude 7.5 quake struck in the nation's central region. Papua New Guinea is located on the eastern half of the island of New Guinea, to the east of Indonesia and north of eastern Australia. The leaders of 24 African countries have urged wealthier nations to uphold their aid pledges so the continent can tackle climate change effects for which it shares little blame. African ministers made their call in a communique at the close of a 3-day forum in the Egyptian capital Cairo on Friday, and 2 months before Egypt hosts the crucial COP27 climate conference in Sharm el-Sheikh in November. The 24 leaders urged in a closing statement developed countries to fulfill their pledges in relation to climate and development finance and deliver on their commitments to double adaptation finance, in particular to Africa. The African continent emits only some 3% of global carbon emissions, former UN chief Ban Ki-moon noted this week. And yet, African nations are among those most exposed to the effects of climate change, notably worsening droughts and floods. The African leaders said the financial aid was needed in view of the disproportionate impact of climate change and nature loss on the African continent. Africa not only has a low carbon footprint, they said, but it also plays a key role in capturing greenhouse gases, including in the Congo Basin, which is home to the world's second largest tropical rainforest after the Amazon. The communique urged rich countries to meet and expand climate pledges and said poor countries should be able to develop economically while receiving more funds to adapt to the effects of climate change.
Americans remembered 9/11 today with readings of victims' names, volunteer work and other tributes 21 years after the deadliest terror attack on U.S. soil. A tolling bell and a moment of silence began the commemoration at Ground Zero in New York, where the World Trade Center's Twin Towers were destroyed by the hijacked plane attacks of 11 September 2001. Victims' relatives and dignitaries also convened at the 2 other terror attack sites, the Pentagon and a field in Pennsylvania. Other communities around the country are marking the day with candlelight vigils, interfaith services and other commemorations. Some Americans are joining in volunteer projects on a day that is federally recognized as both Patriot Day and a national day of service and remembrance. Over the past 75 years of independence, India's largest public service broadcaster, All India Radio, has been the proverbial storyteller for the 1.3 billion citizens across the country. All India Radio is celebrating 75 years of freedom with the series Azad Bharat Ki Baat Akashvani ke Saath. It showcases the journey of India since independence in various walks of life through the storytelling of All India Radio.
आजाद भारत की बात आकाशवाणी के साथ, reliving the journey of India since independence over the last 75 years with All India Radio. From 15th August, the series is being broadcast on All India Radio, 100.1 FM Gold Channel, primetime news bulletins and across all its platforms. Tune in to stay updated with All India Radio.
In the Asia Cup cricket final, chasing a victory target of 171 runs set by Sri Lanka, Pakistan were 102 for 4 in 15.2 overs at the Dubai International Stadium when reports last came in. Earlier put into bat first, Sri Lanka posted 170 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in stipulated 20 overs with the help of Bhanuka Rajapaksa unbeaten 71 of 45 balls. For Pakistan, Harish Rauf picked up 3 wickets. In the tournament, Sri Lanka have won all 3 matches in the Super 4 stage of the tournament, while Pakistan won 2 out of their 3 Super 4 games to book a seat in the final.
In the US Open tennis, Carlos Alcaraz of Spain will face Norwegian star Casper Ruud in the men's singles finals in New York later tonight. This high-stakes match will not only crown a first-time Grand Slam champion, but also a new world number one. World number one Iga Swiatek has won the women's singles title. She defeated Tunisia's Ons Jabeur 6-2, 7-6 in the summit clash late last night. Swiatek is the first Polish woman to win the US Open. It is her 10th career title and 3rd Grand Slam. Now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Washington Post writes, "Is Britain mourning? Queen's coffin on final journey, but daily life goes on." The Guardian reports, ban Bain and Company from US government contracts, Joe Biden is urged. The Globe and Mail writes that King Charles III proclaimed Canada's new head of state in ceremony at Rideau Hall. South China Morning Post reports, Taiwanese military confirms, for first time PLA drones crossed Taiwan Strait median line. The Financial Times writes, Ukraine's Reznikov warns on Russian counterattack. The Wall Street Journal reports, Trump lawyer seeks to lower temperature over Mar-a-Lago documents. The Japan Times writes, anti-US based incumbent Denny Tamaki set to win Okinawa gubernatorial race.
A quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate World Dairy Summit at Greater Noida in Uttar Pradesh on Monday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on 2-day visit to Uzbekistan on 15th of September for SCO Summit. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, while addressing diplomats at the Prince Saud Al Faisal Institute of Diplomatic Studies in Riyadh, underlined the importance of the India-Saudi strategic relationship. Britain's Queen Elizabeth II embarks on a final journey as Queen's coffin has arrived in Edinburgh after a journey from Balmoral. Dozens of girls have protested in Afghanistan's Pastia province after Taliban authorities shut their schools just days after classes resumed. France, Britain and Germany have said that they seriously doubt about Iran's intentions to revive a nuclear deal. Albania severs diplomatic ties with Iran and orders Iranian embassy staff to leave, accusing it of orchestrating a major cyber attack. Ukraine claims its forces have retaken over 3,000 square kilometers during a rapid counter-offensive in eastern parts. The leaders of 24 African countries urge wealthier nations to uphold their 8 pledges so the continent can tackle climate change effects for which it shares little blame. And now before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Benin.
Vaishnav Jan ko tini kahi re peer padai jani re tare dukhi upkari kari tui man abhiman mena ani re sakala
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.